Welcome back to another RuneScape update. We have a lot to catch up on because we missed last week's video. However, if you're already up to date with all those changes from last week, then you can skip to this time on screen to focus on this week's new game changes. We missed last week, so I'm just going to recap on that as quick as possible here. It does include a lot of combat changes though, so bear with. First up are the TOA boss changes, where Protect from Melee now mitigates all damage at Baba, unless invocations which reduce the effectiveness of protection prayers are activated. Baba now also spawns 1 to 4 baboons rather than 1 to 8, depending on group size. If Jungle Juice is enabled, baboons will spawn 2 banana piles on death, and damage from Baba's boulder throw attack is now always split completely with any appropriate object. Protection prayers will now mitigate more damage from Akka's basic attacks. Akka now only protects against the same style that he is attacking with, and his drain stat effect now only affects combat skills. Akka's spec attacks now occur every 7 attacks, which is up from 6, and his enrage phase now spawns fewer orbs. Akka's Stay Vigilant invocation means that he'll use a spec attack every 6 attacks as opposed to the base version 7, and if the Stay Vigilant invocation is enabled, Akka will only swap the style he's attacking with when he uses a spec, provided that he has used a regular attack since the last one. Soldier Scarabs have had their magic defense reduced, and Scarabs inside Kefri's encounter no longer scale their defense with raid level. Arcane Scarabs are now guaranteed to move after a certain number of attacks. Cursed Baboons and Baboon Shamans now always take maximum damage from ranged attacks. 2 waves of Baboon Assailants have been removed from the Path of Ampkin, and Baboons at Baba will now always take maximum damage from your hit. The volume of water required for the Path of Condis no longer scales linearly with the number of players. There's slightly reduced hit points on the Obelisk on the Path of Het. The deposit pot on the Nexus now functions as a full deposit box. There is now a reduced overall purple chance for raid levels beyond 300, and at raid levels 350, 400, 450 and 500, the weighting of the Lightbearer and Fang reduces, while the weighting of other uniques like the Shadow increases. They've added a Jewel of a Mascot, which upgrades the Kara's Partisan for exclusive use in TOA. It is slightly less effective against Scarabs, but it gains plus 50 stab bonus and plus 22 strength bonus. Drop rates of all jewels have been significantly improved to ease acquisition, and the base rate still scales as before. And if you have any other jewels, this rate improves further. Then moving on from that, they have also added a Monster Inspect spell to the standard spellbook. This requires a level 42 magic to use, and it offers a quick look into the elemental weaknesses, defensive and offensive stats of that monster. They've also rolled out some more elemental weaknesses and made some further adjustments to existing defenses on a variety of monsters. There's a full spreadsheet that you can check out if you're interested in those. They've also made some tweaks to flat armor. Enemies with positive values will take less damage per hit, while negative values make them take more. And they've made a few tweaks to some loot tables, with a particular focus on runes, high tier food, herbs, seed, gems, and a new shark lure. Then there are a few Obar and Brafetta changes. First being that they no longer require a key to be fought, and they can now drop their own respective keys. However, to compensate, each of them now has a reduced simple loot table, which is similar to regular giants, with a chance for giant bones and an increased chance for their keys. And inside each of their layers is a chest requiring a giant or mossy key to open, with a loot table that is identical to the existing one. This chest can only be opened after the boss is defeated. And then for some Duke related changes, to prevent players locking themselves out, you can't use mushrooms directly on Duke anymore, but you can still use potions and ground mushrooms. You can prep multiple kills based on your herb lore level, and Duke's HP has increased from 440 to 485. They've also adjusted the combat achievements here, down by 45 seconds each. However, the timer will now start after Duke wakes up, and they've added a left click feed option which auto uses potions. Then there are loads of other boss and PVM related changes to catch up on from last week. They removed an early phase of Fasani's Nightmare, and the speed times for the combat achievements here have also been lowered. The Sleepy Tablet now drops at a rate of 125, and it'll be guaranteed on the 25th kill. Then Huey now drops uniques at a rate of 1 out of 18 instead of 1 out of 23, and the Dragon Hunter one now has 40% magic damage and 75% magic accuracy bonus against dragons, and it will now autocast ancient magics. Huey's hide armor pieces have had their crafting requirements lowered by 10 levels, and then the Deranged Archaeologist drops the new Steel Ring. This has a plus 24 stab, slash and crush defense. The Granite Ring now provides plus 12 range defense, plus 2 for stab, slash and crush, and minus 2 magic defense. And these values are all doubled upon imbuing. They've also adjusted Serb's fire special so that it no longer will deal damage in an area of effect and appear more predictably. And the Ward of Arceus now reduces prayer drain from demon attacks by 33%. And this effect will stack with a Spectral Spirit Shield. Then halberds can now hit flying enemies like Avian Seas, and Demon Beam weaponry is now effective against the Ice Demon and the Chambers of Zarek. Desert Treasure 2 bosses will now drop a gold ring whenever you hit one of the behind the scenes vestige rolls. You can now show your Zuck Slayer helmet to benefit from an equipped Zuck helm within the Inferno and Fight caves. And Iron accounts will now have to deal more damage to wildy bosses to be eligible for their loot rolls. And that is now us up to date, and we are ready to move on to this week's update. And this week's update is a massive one because stackable clues are finally here. From now on, any clue scroll drop will be replaced by a stackable scroll box. Each box will hold a clue scroll, and it can only be opened if you don't already have an active one of that tier sitting in your inventory or your bank. This will allow you to collect and store multiple clues of the same same tier in a single stack. These scroll boxes and traditional clue scrolls do share a stack limit, which starts at 2 per tier by default and can be increased to a maximum of 5 per tier. For each tier of clue scroll, you'll be able to obtain a minor scroll case and a major scroll case, which will unlock the 3rd and 4th slot of the stackable clues for you. And then the other way of increasing your stack limit is through beating the Mimic boss, which will earn you a Mimic scroll case, which will increase the capacity of all tiers by 1. Dropping scroll boxes on the floor will not bypass stack limits, although you can still juggle individual clue scrolls by dropping them and picking them up just as before. And Watson's treasure trail board has been updated, and it will now track your total completed clues per tier and your current scroll capacity per tier. And then in the other changes this week, they have rebalanced Soul Wars Spoils of War loot table, and it now includes some blighted supplies, and the Castle Wars specific ammo has been replaced with pure essence. And the steel ring from last week now gives plus 24 crush, stab and slash defense. Using Thralls in the Kefri room will no longer count towards the Arcane Scarab's hit count, causing it to move. The Soul Flame Horn can no longer be used to start a skilling cycle. The keys from Obar and Bryo are now more common, dropping at a rate of 1 out of 16 instead of 1 out of 32, and you can now one-shot Bryo's growth links if you have an axe or magic secateurs equipped. Finally, they are also running a survey for mobile users, aiming to find out what your go-to content is for mobile and what content you avoid doing on it and why. Then the PvP rota has moved to period B, and the PvP arena is using max made loadouts in ranked duels and tournaments this week. And that is all for today. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again next week with your newest RuneScape update.